welcome to Wednesday. I'm looking forward to Sunday, the opportunity for us to be back together inside. I have enjoyed what we've done in the parking lot, but I think it will be good for us to be able to move back inside. So excited about that opportunity this coming Sunday. For your Wednesday, I want to read you this passage from John chapter 1. And I'm going to begin in verse 1 and go through verse 14. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made, and without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to those which was his own, but those own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent or of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. I've spoken in some of the other videos about finding beauty in the world, and I think that's important. But one of the things that I want to talk about a little bit in this one is that there's also a lot of ugliness in the world, and we need to acknowledge and recognize that too. I saw a funny little caption the other day. It was I guess a screenshot taken from one of the Back to the Future movies, and it had Christopher Lloyd in it and Michael Fox. And Christopher Lloyd was telling Michael Fox, the little caption said, first thing about time travel, do not set it to the year 2020. And of course, in a way, it brings a smile to your face because it's intended to be funny, and it is, but there's also a sadness to it in that 2020 has just been it's been a weird year in some ways. I mean, with the shutdowns that have gone on, the quarantines, I've not experienced anything like this in my lifetime, and then with all the upheaval that has happened over the last several days with the killing of the man by the police officers, the riots that have gone on, there's just... news can just really make you depressed. I read an article, going back to the COVID thing, the virus thing, read an article this week, and I think it was fairly well written, and it was probably a truthful article, saying there's now growing evidence that the Chinese did not give information to the world as fast as they could have or should have about this virus that happened. And that just makes you sad that probably a lot of lives could have been saved if the Chinese government had been a little more forthcoming about what was going on and given the world more information faster. And I don't know, maybe it's not true. I don't want to get into an argument here. I'm not trying to turn this to political, but it seems like there's some growing evidence that maybe the Chinese didn't tell everything they knew. And, I don't know, it just makes you sad. And, you think about all the people that have died from this virus. You think about the people that have died from the flu, from car wrecks. You think about the people that have died from medical mistakes, cancer. How much other stuff could I talk about right now in terms of tragedies and things that are going on in this world, you see? The truth is there is racism in this world, and it makes the world a worse place. And there are riots going on right now. And I think, from what I understand, there's a curfew in Fort Worth. I don't know if it's still ongoing. I don't have to deal with it here where I live, but the riots are going on, and I look at it and I don't see how in the world the rioting and destruction and violence is going to solve a problem of violence. But there are those that seem to think so, and that's what they do to try and make that happen. I don't get it. I've been reminded that this would have been Danica's senior year. Would have been Danica's senior year. She would have been a graduate this year. And of course, that just also makes me sad to think about that. Just miss her. And I was pleased to see that the school did include a picture of her among the graduates, kind of an in memoriam type of thing, and that was hanging at the City Hall. I was thankful to see that the school did remember her and that she has not been forgotten in that sense. But I don't know, you just think about that. I was glad to see that. So what I want to say here for the moment is, do I need to keep going on about the misery that's in this world and the ugliness that is there? I really don't have to, do I? You've got that. You could probably tell me stuff, and we could just sit here and keep going. What I want to remind us of, and I want to take us back now to that scripture reading at the beginning, is Jesus came down here into the middle and into the midst of all of this mess. You see, one of the things I want to remind us of is that if we make a mistake, if we think that we live in the worst of all possible times, I don't want to get into arguments again. I'd suggest to you that they may have had it worse back then than we do today. The Romans were in charge, and especially if you were not a Roman citizen, their justice or injustice could be brutal. The way they could treat you if you were not a Roman citizen. Jesus and his people endured a lot of horror at the hands of the Romans. They could be very heavy-handed. I mean, I'm not justifying anything that goes on today. I'm just saying that we need to be careful that we don't think we live in the worst of times. It's been bad all the time. That's just the reality. Human history is just filled with lots of evil and lots of bad and lots of things going on. So, I don't know, do what you want to with that. I just want to point out that Jesus came down here into all of this mess, you see. You think about it for a moment and just try to imagine, what is it like in heaven? And I don't know how you imagine it, and you can imagine however you want, but let's just agree on this. It's probably got to be pretty good. What do you think? It's probably got to be pretty amazing. And yet he left that to come here. And remember, out of all of this, not only did he come down here, one of the things we could realize about all of us is we all have sin. We're guilty. We're guilty of something. There is not a one of us here, any of you watching this, that can say, I'm innocent. No, we're all guilty of something. We've done something. There's some way in which all of us have made this world a worse place. There are no innocents, and yet he was innocent. He had committed no crime. There was no sin that could be given to him. And yet, in a way, if you want to look at it, it's like somebody agreeing to go and live and be in a prison. I mean, you try to think of some places on this earth that may be kind of hell-like, and I can imagine a prison is one of those. And it's as though Jesus said, voluntarily, I will leave my nice home and my freedom and all that I have, and I will go live in a prison. And it's a prison run by a very satanic warden. Literally, that's the case. So I guess just a couple of observations. First of all, I just want to remind us in the midst of all these troubles, how much he loves us to do what he did. How much he loves us to do what he did. And the second observation is this: I don't really have all the answers for the problems in this world. I wish I did. There are things that make sense to me, but I don't know if they work or not. Who knows? The thing I want to do with us is just keep pointing us to Jesus and his example, and to remind us that he came down here and he made his place in this mess. That's why I like about that verse. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. So you know what? Let's keep our eyes on him, and let's keep asking ourselves what it is that he wants us to do. What it is that Jesus wants us to be doing. And you know what? Maybe, just maybe, if we would do this, and if more people in this world would do this, we really could find some ways forward. If we would keep our eyes on Jesus and remember to do what it is that he would like for us to do. Thanks for watching.
Let us break bread together.